Everything is done to help them settle in. The yak man from Everest, for example, has been missing his yaks. So, on a neighbouring farm, he meets at least a Highland look-alike. Back in genuine yak country, there's a happy ending to a remarkable story. This is the Himalayan home village of the most celebrated living Gurkha. In May 1945, on the banks of the Irrawaddy River, rifleman Lachaman Gurung, here with friends, took on the Japanese literally single-handed. This was because he'd had his right arm blown off. Lachaman was also wounded in the face, chest and legs. He won the day alone and was awarded the Victoria Cross. Aged 78 now and walking with some difficulty, he wanted to move from the mountains to a house on the plain. There was an obvious cash flow problem. His income was £56 a month, supplemented by a gift of £100 every year from Eric Williams, a British Gurkha officer who'd fought in the same Irrawaddy action. Then he learned that his Victoria Cross, if offered for auction in a London sale room, could fetch up to £50,000. But where was it? Mrs. Latchman knew precisely. In 1951, his old Indian Army regiment had asked if they could borrow it and display it as an inspiration to their troops. Just 7 years ago, Latchman sent his 2 sons to India to retrieve it. They returned empty-handed. The Indians had offered to house him in India. Latchaman refused. "My home is Nepal," he said, "and what would happen to my family when I die?" The matter had been dragging on now for 44 years. A simple Nepalese hillman against a vast bureaucracy. Latchaman's old commander, General Sir Walter Walker, took up the case. There was a heated exchange of letters with the Indians, but still nothing came of it. So each month, Latchaman's son prepared for the journey down the mountain to collect his pension. "No, he's not heavy," he said. "How could he be? He's my father." The pride is understandable, for this is a citation of what his father did to win the Victoria Cross at the age of 17.
At Taungdaw in Burma, on the west bank of the Irrawaddy, on the night of the 12th, 13th of May, 1945, rifleman Lachaman Gurung was manning the most forward post of his platoon. At 0120 hours, at least 200 enemy assaulted the company's position. The brunt of the attack was borne by Lachaman Gurung's section, and by his own post in particular. Before assaulting, the enemy hurled innumerable grenades at the position from close range. One grenade fell on the lip of rifleman Lachaman Gurung's trench. He at once grasped it and hurled it back at the enemy. Almost immediately, another grenade fell directly inside the trench, and again this rifleman snatched it up and threw it back. A third grenade then fell just in front of the trench. He attempted to throw it back, but it exploded in his hand, blowing off the fingers, shattering his right arm, and severely wounding him in the face, body, and right leg. His 2 comrades were also badly wounded and lay helpless in the bottom of the trench. The enemy, screaming and shouting, now formed up shoulder to shoulder and attempted to rush the position by sheer weight of numbers. Rifleman Lachaman Gurung, regardless of his wounds, loaded and fired his rifle with his left hand, maintaining a continuous rate of fire. Wave after wave of fanatical attacks were thrown in by the enemy, but all were repulsed with heavy casualties. For 4 hours after being severely wounded, Rifleman Lachaman Gurung remained alone, awaiting with perfect calm each attack, meeting it with fire at point-blank range from his rifle, determined not to give 1 inch of ground. Of 87 enemy dead counted in the immediate vicinity of the company's locality, 31 lay in front of this rifleman's section, the key to the whole position. This rifleman, by his magnificent example, so inspired his comrades to resist the enemy to the last that, although surrounded and cut off for 3 days and 2 nights, they held and smashed every attack. his gallant and extreme devotion to duty in the face of almost overwhelming odds were the main factors in the defeat of the enemy.
The happy ending is that Lachemann did get his house on the plain. When the story was known, the Gurkha Welfare Trust bought a plot, the British Limbless Ex-Servicemen's Association chipped in a donation, and the readers of a British newspaper sent in more than £100,000, not only for Lachemann, but for other Gurkhas on hard times. Incidentally, the Indians turned up for Lachemann's housewarming. They gave him £8,000 in lieu of his VC. Quite by chance, at Church Crookham, a piper is practicing. He is playing Ode to Joy. Today, from the wreckage of 5 infantry battalions, 1 new regiment, the Royal Gurkha Rifles, is being raised. The Gurkhas are now serving with the 5th Airborne Brigade and other specialised units of the British Army. The man honoured and delighted to become their Colonel-in-Chief is the Prince of Wales. They march at a brisk 140 paces a minute, exemplifying 50 years on the words of Field Marshal Bill Slim, commander of the 14th Army which won the war in Burma. Nothing looks as uniform as a Gurkha battalion. Nothing looks more workmanlike, and few things look so formidable.
They have the most remarkable, I think, approach to life. I mean, they're the loyalest people in the world, apart from anything else. I suppose from the point of view of a military existence, so many of them are ready-made for it because they come from martial clans in Nepal. And some of the clans, have this particular tradition of being the warriors. And I think that's what, I suppose, makes them such wonderful soldiers. But they have such a good sense of humour, and they're really sort of noble people, I think. I just think they're remarkable people. I'm very fond of them.
Many have tried to enshrine the Gurkha character. Here are the words of Sir Rolf Turner, a former Gurkha officer. Once more I hear the laughter with which you greeted every hardship. Uncomplaining, you endure hunger and thirst and wounds. And at the last, your unwavering lines disappear into the smoke and wrath of battle. Bravest of the brave, most generous of the generous. Never had a country more faithful friends than you.